System riding to the core. Yeah. Reppin' inner city left.
This is the Inner City Left broadcast. I am Amin TMK alongside Emoja Lil Tanky Sumler. Today is Wednesday, March 12th. Hello, Emoja. How are you, my friend? How have you been doing?
Man, gone. But we returned at the turn of the tide.
Let's jump right in, Gandalf. HTS, the Syrian, he's the Syrian president because he named himself president.
Hey, you're upset that he was, so
That's
he's got to be the president.
How
you're the president.
That's how you become a president.
Right. You say that you're the president.
Europe says.
And Europe says that's true. And that's
so no elections, nothing like that.
Right.
It's just...
See, if having elections made you the president, Putin wouldn't be a dictator. See what I'm saying? You got to do it the Giuliani way, where you say you're the president.
You just say you're the president instead of having a fake election, even though the elections last several weeks and there is no information.
Liberals have been telling us for years, man. For years, you manifest.
You got to
manifest it, right? When he was young, he was like, I want to be a terrorist, and he manifested that shit. And now he's elevated. You know what I'm saying? He's moved on. He's transcended that. You know. That was just what he did when he was young, man. He's the president now, and show some fucking respect.
All right, so you're president, not mine. Ahmed al-Shara.
Giuliani.
That's what he goes by now. Dead naming him. POS. Okay. Yeah, it's the rebrand, right? It's the HTS head chopper. I am a former Al-Qaeda commander. Deputy to al-Baghdadi. It's a rebrand, right? And because
you've been gone a long time, maybe you don't know, man. I don't play the piano with my penis.
Right. Wow. Okay. Now the inside joke's getting too crazy. Well, let's focus on this. The rebrand is crazy. But let's talk about what happened. Let's talk about what's going on, because that's really what I think people should be upset about. So a UK-based war monitoring group, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, said on this past Sunday night, as many as 973 Alawite civilians have been killed. And even Giuliani, or al-Shara,
look at what you did.
Said, they were revenge killings, but we're going to hold those people to account.
But that's not what Europe said. Europe said they're Assad loyalists, right? Like, meanwhile, we got NGOs in the West saying 2/3 of Syrians are at risk of unexploded bombs just from how long this civil... Like, you would think a government's job would be to, find unexploded ordnance, collect that shit, dispose of that shit. But it's not really a government. They are simply a caretaker organization that's been put in place and empowered by the West, and you can see that by the things that are happening. This little rebellion, they're acting like it just started up again, but it never really ended. They act like the Syrian revolution was just about Assad, and it wasn't. People had grievances, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, but now those people see that they've been fucking lied to, while Giuliani just gives away more and more Syrian space to the Israelis, but you're killing all of the Palestinian resistance groups that are there, which is incredibly funny considering Giuliani is essentially a proxy for Turkey. He's Erdogan's man. He's Erdogan's man in Syria. It's his job to run it, de facto. It just reminds me, and this is how long we've been talking about this Syrian conflict, because we're not new to this shit, man. I remember a couple of years ago, we were talking about there was conflict in Washington over Syria because the CIA branch, which, by the way, was the HTS guys, right, was at conflict with the DOD branch, which, by the way, is the Kurdish guys that have all the oil fields that send it straight to Israel, right? And so, like, that's what you're seeing now, right? There was this big brouhaha, and you're seeing it all through the news. Oh, the HTS faction, they're talking about power sharing with the Kurds. I mean, this is like when the FBI and the CIA talk about power sharing, right? Like, they own things, and they have their own fucking agendas. You know, I mean, they nominally work together because they're both under the control of the United States of America. And that's the connection, right, between these HTS guys and these fucking Kurds. They're both under the employ of the United States in one form or fashion. Even when you look at HTS, right, being nominally moved through Erdogan, it sounds like I'm double talking, but you have to remember that Erdogan is a NATO man. And NATO is controlled by the United States. So it's just an area of having a little bit of diffraction, right? A little bit of diffusion to streamline the command. And it's not very different from what you see in Russia or in Ukraine as it relates to the Europeans. The Europeans are being told to step up and do more. That's what's happening in Syria. The Americans are telling the Turks, you know, and the Israelis, by the way, we're not going to be here forever. Y'all handle it. Okay, the Israelis, y'all get the south where all the highlands are, you know, and nominally will allow you guys to keep the oil so long as you don't change the business arrangement and it goes to Israel. So this is why you see the Kurdish forces now talking about working with the HTS forces more in a power sharing type thing. It's just to make the money flow. You always follow the money.
Yeah, and the ideologues that want this, you know, a larger, like you said, Erdogan and his situation with, you know, the Kurdish minority, obviously been a pain in his neck for quite some time. He's seeing an opportunity to, you know, utilize this conflict to find maybe a space for the Kurds, or who knows what the real plan is. I don't think that it's very benevolent in any way. And again, you're seeing religious minorities being slaughtered. No way around it. Children, young people, women, men, doesn't matter. They got people barking like dogs. You know, and this was the person that was on CNN, Al Julani. He was on CNN with the beard. Beard is fresher than mine, man. He's got the good essential oils in there. And, you know, but behind the scenes.
And it's worth mentioning that, right? Like the Alawites are Christians, and they're being systemically wiped out. And because there's been tension in Syria for so long, anybody that dies at this point, they can just say you were an Assad supporter,
loyalist or whatever.
Whatever is the little moniker they're using, and nobody looks too deep into it. But more than 1,000 people have died in the past month. You know, and the lion's share of that has been within the last 2 weeks. Like, to say this Syria is stable is just to completely miss the point. If all you cared about was seeing Assad gone, congratulations, you won. You did, but if you cared about Syria, everyone is lost, and no one more than the Syrians.
Yeah, and follow Richard Minhurst, who's being, bullied, being detained, arrested, asking them, does he have any ties to any terrorist organizations? Obviously here in the United States, with the Columbia student as well, mentioning Palestine. It's sort of at any moment, at any time, if you are, and our page faces this as well. If you go against the general narrative, you're come down against, just because they don't want those narratives out there, and they have the same words, the same phrases are said over and over again. And like you said, Israel is now, they have approved its plans for 3-zone occupation of Syrian territory. We've heard them say, our sources saying that there is an IDF force that is just a few hours outside of Damascus. It seems that they can do whatever they want, whenever they want. Doesn't seem like Julani is very against
range, that. Right? Because they have the highlands. The Golan, that's why the Israelis want the Golans, the highlands, right? You put some artillery on the mountains and you can project power very far. You may as well have an Air Force. If you got artillery on mountains and a firing solution, your army can project power all over. And that's what that land grab was about. Never mind the fact that this area is traditionally tons of Druze, not Jews, but Druze, which is another ethnic minority. I'm gonna tell you something. I haven't had a whole lot to say about Muhammad. What's his name? Muhammad, the guy from Colombia, because I've seen mixed reports about this dude. I've seen reports that said he was a collaborator. He was one of the dudes working with the Department of State to bring down the Syrian government. And so, like, again, I don't feel bad. I don't feel bad when you opt out and you sell out your own people and then, oh my God, you surprised the fucking lion bit me. That's what the fucking lion do. The lion bite people. Now, we can feel pity about the way that the circumstances played out. They snatched this man up and they grabbed him. But again, how is this different from, I was watching this happen to Black Lives Matter activists a decade ago.
Yeah,
you know
it's just another high profile. I mean, I don't think there's any reason to be like, oh, this happened,
right?
And we care now. No, it happened, and it's bad. And I think that again, we can look back toward other
Mahmoud
Khalil,
my bad.
Yeah,
that's his name, Mahmoud Khalil.
Yeah, and again, it's just a scary precedent. Although
it's not even a precedent, it's been happening.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
But we called out those. We called out when those were happening as well.
Right.
It does happen all around. And I don't think that again, it's. We could go all the way back down to, of course, the Black Panthers being snatched up,
right.
Mumia is
still on the lam.
Mumia is still locked up. So obviously, I hear what you're saying, but I do think it is, again, important just to acknowledge that these things are continuing to happen. Let's move on, though, from that, if we can, because I did want to mention sort of this idea. But we haven't talked in a while. We're doing our thing. That's fine. Well, the ceasefire, quote unquote, ceasefire in Russia, Ukraine, which if you've been watching our program, a ceasefire is not going to happen. It is a ridiculous ask. And we are far, far, far beyond the idea of a ceasefire happening. And again, it goes back to, I think, this thing where you're a presidential candidate, you think you're going to come in and you're going to change and do all these things. And when the Trump presidency came in, they were like, oh, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, we're going to cut off the aid, which they didn't. The aid is right back up. They said they were going to cut off the intel. They did for a few days, and it's right back up. So it seems as though this ceasefire is, again, just another way to try to build some sort of negotiation to help the Ukrainians, which obviously I don't think the Russians are going to accept. What are your thoughts on the ceasefire and, what's happening right now?
Yeah, well, opinion? When we're talking about a ceasefire, right, an American brokered ceasefire, let's look at a couple of the American Trump, forwarded peace ceasefire so far. We got the Lebanon ceasefire, where the Israelis are still in Lebanon doing whatever in the fuck they want. You have the Gaza ceasefire, also brokered by Trump, where the Israelis have not stopped killing people for one fucking day, right? These are
blockade. No,
right?
no food, right? No water, no materials.
These are
all
American ceasefires, right? Yeah. So why would Russia be interested in anything like that, right? When they have two of these ceasefires right now that are happening, that are brokered by the Americans, that are being violated by the people that the Americans like. And Russia is not the people that America likes. No matter what Trump makes you think on TV, just opening up diplomatic relations is the most basic shit ever. And the fact that Democrats are mad about this, like, yo, this is a fucking nuclear country, right? We need to have diplomatic relations with every country that has nuclear missiles. Got to be able to talk to people, even people you don't like. That's just grown-up shit, right? But it's worse, though. This Ukraine situation is worse because the way they sell a ceasefire is like, well, you guys both need a break, But that's not the fucking truth. Ukraine is getting fucking decimated. I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go. But to really paint out what this metaphor is. No. All right. So I'll give you an example of something that's happened since we gave you a broadcast. So Kursk has fallen. The Ukrainians now have 1/3 of the land that they had at the beginning of the month. 1/3. They've lost 2/3 of the land they held this month because in one of the most daring military operations I've ever studied, right? The Russian military put 800 soldiers in these huge gas pipelines that they had been using to pump gas all throughout Europe too. Okay. But Europe has Ukraine turned off the gas, and they're not allowing this Russian gas to go. Well, in that pettiness, right? In Zelensky's pettiness to stop the contractually obligated flow of natural gas from Russia to Europe, it left a gap. These are huge pipelines. The Russians put 800 crack soldiers in them, ran them for kilometers, right, through these pipelines, dumped them out deep inside the field of combat, and essentially routed the entire Kursk operation. More than 70% of the military assets that have been associated with this expedition have been destroyed. We're talking about a full-on rout. Now, why in the fuck would Russia want to have a timeout, right? This is like when you in the bar, you pump your little mans up to go start fight with a dude. Dude is whooping the dog shit out of your mans, and you're like, all right, timeout. Why in the fuck would I want a timeout? I'm stomping your mans out. I don't need a timeout. After you
started it. Yeah. After you started it over and over again, we told you, please stop sending, rockets. Please stop, destabilizing the Donbass. We asked you to stop doing that. You didn't. We asked you to stop persecuting, Russian Orthodox Christians, Russian speakers. Yeah, we begged you for that. We told you to stop, building up your weapons and militarizing your border. We told you that you have to have an election, that you can't, the Maidan coup. Again, these are all reasons why we're here.
Abraham Lincoln had an election in the middle of the fucking Civil War. Okay.
Yeah, and it's over for Zelensky now. But again, there was a lot of drama and a lot of things that we had to go through to tell you, look, Zelensky is not a legitimate leader. Zelensky is not even a true Ukrainian speaker, for goodness sakes, man. No. And people are like in our faces all the time, like, oh, you don't care about Zelensky, you just blah, blah, blah. I don't care. Yeah, because I care about people. I care about individuals. I don't care about any dirty dollar is fine type politicians who are siding with the West that take the money. How many Ukrainian generals get running around with Rolls Royces and Aventadors and all kind of crazy exotic cars? All the money's gone. Zelensky said it himself. Trump's like, hey, where's the money at, my guy? And he's like, I don't know what happened to the money. And that was supposed to be the American people's money.
Right, and I'm not saying they're Nazis, but I'm saying the AfD, which is largely regarded as a Nazi group in Germany, is calling the Ukrainian far right, the Azovs, Nazis. They're calling the Banderas Nazis. This is what they're saying, right? So, why am I supposed to feel sad that they're losing? Why would I want there to be a ceasefire when Nazis are being wiped off the face of the earth? Why would I want, as a black man, as a black Jewish man, why would I want that?
And all the Africans and everybody that was in Ukraine, as soon as the special military operation happened, they were not allowing them to leave. They were prioritizing, the white citizens and things like this. So it is important to acknowledge that Ukraine is Nazi, they're racist, and the United States has done everything in its power, given them all the best weapons, all the best, tons of money. Again, all the money's gone. And, everyone here is just left holding the bag, the empty bag.
Let's talk about the intel, too, right? Because, again, this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about as far as American ceasefires go. So they made a big to-do about, I've turned off the aid, I've turned off the intel. Okay? So what does that mean when it's an open note test? And what I mean by that is I'm no longer giving you the answers to the test, right? But I have the answers to the test. And I'm sharing those answers to the test with this guy that's sitting right next to me named NATO. And NATO is sharing that same book to you. So I'm not giving you the answers anymore, but I am giving the answers to NATO, and NATO is giving the answers to you. Okay? So even acting like all that meant was, once again, just like with HTS, the United States put up a proxy for their proxy. And they're no longer, but even that's turned back on. But I say again, right? And this goes back to a great weakness of the American empire. You watch 007, you watch British intelligence, and they're always talking about human intelligence, getting people in and getting them connected to know what the fuck is going on the ground. American intelligence has always been based on signal intelligence. Military intelligence is based in their satellites, based in all of that kind of stuff, right? Tracking, they're listening to you on your phone. Alphabet Boys is listening, right? None of that shit would have helped with the Kursk operation. None of it. Okay, the Russians are on their own cell phone telecommunication providers, right? They were under the ground. They were in these, like I said, they were in these big gas pipelines. There's nothing Starlink could have done that would have helped them. There's no American. So, like, once again, you overplay your own intelligence because why wasn't nobody briefed? Why didn't anybody know that this Kursk operation was about to happen?
Yeah. And just goes back to your point of, Department of Defense, CIA, FBI. I mean, they're all on different wavelengths. They're all having different conversations. They all work for a different person. And you don't even have the United States operating on one accord. You got all kind of free-for-alls going on.
I mean, and nowhere was this more evident than in the last administration, where you would have the Department of Defense saying, no, absolutely not. You cannot use our ATACMS missiles to strike inside of Russia. Meanwhile, you would have the Department of State saying, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah,
Hit
do
him
it.
with everything.
Get him.
I mean, you got fights, and this is, in no small degree, this is kind of what Trump was talking about with Zelensky. Like, don't be going behind motherfuckers' backs and thinking that you can snide out a fucking deal by like, oh, I'm going to go on TV and be like, oh, the Americans won't protect me. Bitch, you know what you signed up for. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah. Yeah, again, and they know that they were trying to destabilize Russia, just like they knew they were trying to destabilize Syria, all connected. Just want to acknowledge, I didn't mention this. I wanted to bring it up just to go back to the HTS thing. There's leaked Hillary Clinton emails specifically addressing
and who dropped
this is
them?
the outcome they wanted.
WikiLeaks, which is why she literally, not a metaphor,
Wow, there it is,
wanted to kill him. This is why Julian Assange was on a kill list, because of these type of things where all he did is release emails that she wrote that she didn't want anybody to see. And it went beyond Hillary Clinton. You can't damage the state. She was serving in capacity of the state, the same way Anthony Blinken does, the same way Marco Rubio does, because there is a continuity of government, no matter what happens, no matter who gets elected. And this is why it's silly when liberals are like, you trying to tell me you don't see a difference between the American presidents? Is like, from a foreign policy point of view, fucking no, I don't. Did you go into the State Department and fire everybody? You know what I'm saying? No, you changed the Secretary of State. But the employees that work at the Department of State is the same motherfuckers working on the same shit all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Well said. Let's just do a short episode today. We're going to be right back on our game.
We're going to be back, y'all.
Y'all, you know the deal. You know the deal. We're on the Inner City Left on Instagram. You can follow us all and see all the information. There's a lot of things we didn't, discuss. Obviously, Europe is trying to pick up the slack for Ukraine and the loss of the Americans, which is just silly.
Man, Ursula bitch be lying. Like, we need more money. We need more. All you have to do is make more money. Man, she out there.
No, facts. I mean, Europe is worth nothing. They are worth nothing, and
Russia knows it. Russia knows.
Yes.
You
so does the rest of the world.
Out. Right.
Do we want to talk about the guy, the Chinese minister? I can't remember who it was when they were talking about the so-called beef between them and the British. And he's like, rivalry? No. There's no rivalry. They don't contend with us when it comes to making cars, when it comes to exports, when it comes to military, when it comes to socioeconomic standing within the world. We're not really worried about the UK. And again, Europe is just, they don't understand that they're just not as relevant anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Or fortunately, really.
Right. When you have the Chinese government officially saying, whatever you want to do, we with the shits.
Yeah, and they already said it's on. Hey, if it's a war here.
The last week, if you want a tariff war, you want a physical war, you're trying to smash, you want to fight, whatever fuck you want to do, we're ready to do it and more.
The Chinese embassy tweeting this. Okay, it's not like just some rando. So they're ready for it. Everyone's ready for it. The only real solution, just want to say this again, need to pull away from Ukraine, pull away from Taiwan, in these ridiculous ideas of going to war with China or Russia, or I'll put Iran right up there, because the Iranian president also said, he told Trump, do whatever you want. Everybody's at the point of like, do whatever you want, because we are ready for the shenanigans. We are ready for the lies. We're ready for the double crosses, because that's what America does. And you've shown that time and time again.
These are the implications, right? Because, I mean, I thought that was a great thing, when the president of Iran, who is middle of the fucking road as it gets, man. This is not a fire and brimstone politician, man. He came in as a moderate. He watched the way that Trump treated Zelensky, which, right or wrong, it played out. And it played out. And dude is like, Possession, like, you ain't going to bully me. I'd rather not talk to you. Because if you try to talk to me, you know what I'm saying? I mean, again, man law is, okay? And just amongst all of us, please understand, as a man, there's certain ways you can and cannot talk to me, because you have to assume the possibility of violence is a real thing.
Hey, there's some women where the possibility of violence can be very real as well. In general.
The way that they talk to Zelensky, I mean, in the real world, it's going to be mitts. And then Trump steady touching this dude over and over again. Little pushes, right? Like, these are microaggressions. Like,
we didn't even talk about the whole thing, but it looked bad. Everyone knows what it is.
I'm just saying, if I'm an Iranian president and I'm watching you treat your allies like this, I know you ain't going to treat me no better. And if you touch me, I might fucking swing on your ass, Yeah. Nah, it's better we just don't even talk. Do what you gonna do. The world see the shit. They starting to see the shit.
Keep saying I'm trying to get a Patreon card. I will, but let's just about our patrons, because they're doing our thing. We got a few new ones. Let's give a shout out to Luke H, J Let's, Incognigrita, History Will Absolve Me, Sophia San Marco, Kate Sauer, Monica Marcial, Laura Joelle, Nikki Infield, Not the Rat, Lucy Newman, Samantha Guerrero, Dumpy Tom L, True Crimes of the Empire, Dubsy 22, Jay Gallart 94, No Ground, RK Paula Poderosa, Alyssa Piercy, Lauren Boylocks, Suzette Tav, and Dennis Amadeus. Y'all the real heroes. Y'all, we're building first of all, we have another 50 other patrons that are just free patrons right now, but we have a community there. Jump on in. It's growing. We're getting bigger. Positive things are happening. Again, we're here to serve the people. We're not trying to create narratives. We're just trying to tell y'all the truth, for God's sakes. I know that's a bit of a cliche, as we understand, but again, not just us saying these things. We're not in the minority. I mean, I guess we are in the larger American world, but not in the global world. We are repeating the same things that many others are saying. Podcast listeners, what's up? We're available everywhere you find podcasts. If you're watching us on YouTube, like, subscribe, comment. It helps us up in the algorithms. Final thoughts. Tanky, what do we miss?
Man, we missed a lot, but we missed y'all the most.
Well said. For Emotional Tanky Summer, I'm Amin Team K. This is the Inner City Left broadcast. Peace.
System riding to the core. Yeah. Reppin' in the city left.